ball, RJ.
Yeah, I remember in the media when the media was out there for bowl practices in New Orleans, we'd line up like with guys all in different positions, so nobody could tell who was playing what position because you know how you guys like to leak stuff if
No,
you
but
can and get your name out there a little bit. But so we'd be out there, and I'd be at center, and Gabe would be at guard, and Ty Darlington would be at tackle, and just like all kinds of crazy stuff, just to try to throw people off, and obviously I think it was kept pretty under wraps until the warm ups of the game. So I think we did a good job.
no, you did an absolutely great job because again, that I always tell folks the people that are covering Oklahoma or Texas or your favorite team for the most part, like a blue blood, are very good at their jobs, right? You say you like the league stuff, but that's part of the gig, right? The gig is
Sure.
is news, right? And the understanding on that side of the ball is also, hey, they're good at their jobs. Let's not make it easy, right? And I understand that and I respect that. I'm bringing that up because the level of gamesmanship in college football, I think, has shifted from we're trying to hide what we're doing from the other team to we're trying to hide what we're doing from the people who cover us every single day because they'll notice. Because for instance, this year USC has had open practices. Think about that. They've had open practices to the public, not just the media, to the public. Whereas at the University of Oklahoma, University of Alabama, you're going to see what we show you and what we say you can see. You're going to talk to who we say you can talk to in the manner we say you can talk to them, which is okay, which is fine. I'm just bringing that up to say that's where you have to be if you're competing for a college football playoff spot or you're competing for titles. Whereas USC, that dude is going to get fired if they don't turn it around in a big way this year. And I've always been fascinated by that aspect of it. Obviously, this is running on a YouTube channel and in a podcast form, but also just to the idea that the kids are in on it too, right? That you would know, hey,
Oh, yeah.
we're going to move you guys around, if for no other reason but to not let those guys over there with tape recorders and cameras know this is what we're doing.
Oh yeah, and then all the way up to the game, you just compliment the other guys, and this Alabama's so good. I don't know how we're going to beat them, and we might as well just forfeit the game and let them have it, and just have a good time in New Orleans, and we're just happy to be here, and really hope that we're able to go out there and be competitive. And it's like that's not what we really think. The expectation is to win every football game you play. When you're at a school like you said, a blue blood, there's no let's just keep it close, see if we can try to cover the spread in this game. No, we're trying to get W's every time we go out there. But yeah, I mean we like to have fun with it too. I mean, if you don't think that there's fake call sheets getting dropped out there on the visitor sideline before the game, and
Wait,
crazy.
still?
I mean, it goes through it.
Like,
well, why not?
No, I mean, okay, so like there's the story of Gundy and Leach doing it to Texas like way back early in Bob's career. I want to say around like 99. But while you were there, that was still that sort of gamesmanship?
Oh, I mean, I think that the people at that level are going to do whatever they can to get an edge. And I think if that's something that's maybe it's not a play sheet, maybe it's a wristband.
Right.
You drop a wristband. I know I scooped a wristband one time before one game and submitted it as evidence to whatever coordinator. I think it was an offensive wristband, so I gave it to DC and said, hey, do with this as you may. But who knows? That's the thing, is you don't know if it's real information or not. It's just so much that goes into a football game. I think people sit down and they see 60 minutes of football, but I mean this is a year-round progression that leads up to months and months and months and really years of your life of work, lead up to this 60-minute block of time that the margin of error is so small. So anything you can do to gain an advantage is going to be something that you at least explore.
I imagine Bill Bedenbaugh writing you a handwritten note with a dip in his lip, spitting every, 3 sentences as he goes. And
there might have been some spit on it. Yeah.
Right. You know what I mean? But like the dude will, at least in interviews, right? In interviews, he's not pulling any punches. He's going to tell you what he thinks. Sometimes he'll even laugh at you as you ask him about some dude that just ain't cutting it, right? And you're there at the inflection point of the end of the Kittle, Bobby Jack Wright era of two dudes coaching the offensive line, essentially, with Kittle, I think, still coaching the tackles. And then Bedenbaugh comes in with an entirely different way of doing things, notably to us that you guys were going to get a lot heavier. And there was going to be this emphasis on being physical, and we're going, wait a second. One, aren't they already physical? And two, does he know that this is an air raid that they run? And he's like, nah, I got it. Whatever. What did you get from all of that when he first came in? What was the temperature like?
I think, first of all, being heavier, I think you heard kind of a general exhale of, oh, thank goodness. I don't have to worry about cutting weight for Coach Schmidt anymore as much. At the end of the day, if you're 310, 320, 10, 15 pounds that's like a 1 day swing of weight. Or one practice, you can lose 10 pounds pretty easily. I think the physicality is something that he preaches, as just as part of the gig. Sometimes with other coaches that I've seen, you've got physical guys, you got guys that are a little bit more finesse, you've got guys that are more cerebral, and maybe a center, or something of that nature. So you kind of have different styles of guys that play across the board. For him, physicality is aside from knowing your job and executing is up there. And he doesn't waver from that. I remember when he first got there, so I guess it would have been spring of 13. So he got there in January or February of my senior year, and we went out there for practice and didn't really know exactly what to expect, but he put us through an individual period, which, obviously the line down there by themselves working on drills. And we were shocked. Like, this is brutal. How are we going to do this? Are we going to do this every single day? Yep. This is every day. Every single day we'll do this. And then you go through spring, and then, that was insane that we did that every day. August rolls around. Oh, sure. I mean, we're doing 2 practices today. We can't do this stuff twice today. No, every single day. I mean, rapid fire. He'd take half the line and go with the GA. Half the line would stay with him so you could get more reps. Or centers and guards would stay with the GA, and he'd take the tackles, or vice versa.
What do you have you doing?
And he would just the normal drills, double team drills, different med ball punch drills, hip explosion stuff. I mean, the normal stuff that you would do.
Right.
He just found a way to maximize it so you did as many reps as possible every single day. And being able to do, say one guy takes the right side, one guy takes the left side, you can double your reps and get more work that way. But, it's funny, a couple weeks, maybe the first week of fall camp was kind of getting used to it. Now it was like, that's just what we do. It's what we do every day. Mm-hmm. This is how it works. And, from the outside looking in, it's like, man, that's a pretty hardcore individual period that, and that usually leads right up to inside run period or a team session. So that's, you're not rested up for those team sessions. You're already drenched in sweat and ready to go. But that's just his mentality. If we're going to work hard, if we're down there, we're going to utilize our time efficiently, and you're going to learn something. And more than likely, it's going to be with muscle memory, because you're going to be so gassed out that when it comes to the fourth quarter, you're gonna know what to do, and you're just going to do it by habit.
Okay, so that's the way it's supposed to work, right? That is for lack of a better term, no shade to anybody, just what I got in my head, the rosier way to look at it. Surely there's somebody there, because there's always somebody on every team that says, in some fashion, whether it's body language or physically, don't know that you would confront Bill Bedenbaugh on most anything, but perhaps there's somebody that says, dude, really? Seriously, is this necessary? Did that happen?
I think that maybe in kind of a joking manner.
Okay.
Maybe not, obviously not like a rebellion type way, but
right.
I don't think anyone was surprised. At the same time, you don't really know what to expect, but you know that he's not going to be some soft coach. At the same time, you know him well enough by then to know that this is what he expects, and just like anything else that we do, you get used to it, and, doing the things that athletes at that level do on a daily basis is not easy, and it takes some time to get used to, but eventually you do, and then they stretch you from there, and it becomes hard again, and you get used to that. So I don't think anybody was. I think he could tell that maybe that's not what we were used to after the first day or two. It was like, oh man, these. But at the same time, you get your work done and you get a drink and rest for a second and move on. But I think that makes you a better player when you have to be able to think and process information when you're tired. And most people can't do that, especially when there's a 330-pound guy in your face right across from you. It's hard to do. So the only way to do it is to do it every day and do lots of reps of it and get to where you can do it without even thinking, really. And that's kind of his deal is every day is the same, and you should be able to get to where you can essentially do this stuff in your sleep. I could certainly say that there's a lot of times where I could tell you as a left guard or right guard or a right tackle what all 11 guys on the offense are doing on any given play. I would bet my net worth that there's nobody else outside of the offensive line or the quarterback that could do that ever when I was in the group I was with.
Man.
I think that's the difference in kind of the understanding, because you have to understand, like, not only, like, so if I'm a receiver, I'm running a go route, I'm running a hitch route, I'm running a sluggo. That's all I got to worry about. Now I got to see if the safety's dropping or rocking, or if they're in press coverage, or they're trying to jam me, or they're in man, they're in zone. But at the offensive line, we got to see the whole picture. If I got to know that if this Y motions and they shift with him and they run with him, they're in man, or if this Y motions and the backers just shift to the right, they're in zone. I've got to know, like, all these different things that are going on, because they ultimately affect the scheme of the 5 guys working together, or 6 with the tight end or 6 with the fullback, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that there's certainly some truth to that when you're talking about guys up front. And I think that's something I always challenge young guys that I've worked with is see the big picture. You can't just say, I'm taking a step with my right foot, and then I'm going to work up to the linebacker. You've got to be able to see the whole field. And this kind of gets back to your question you're asking about how do I watch the game. Giving a little bit of a tidbit of that now. I can't just sit back and watch the game. It's a curse, I think, at this point. I'm zoned in on the box. For example, when we watch tape, typically we watch from it as an offensive line from the end zone camera, which typically goes from the quarterback depth to the linebacker depth, and then to a man or two width outside of the tackles or tight end. So we're watching essentially the box, just to be able to see the angles and stuff better. So I definitely prefer to watch it from behind the play versus from the side, like a TV view. So sometimes ESPN will actually have that, like the sky cam view on the ESPN Go. Right. So I would much rather prefer to watch that. Also, they typically have the commentators pulled on that one, so you can't hear them saying stupid things and RPO this and RPO that and RPO and RPO and RPO. And it allows me to kind of see the play progress and see, where they're getting points of double teams, what's kind of their overall mission of the blocking scheme. That's primarily what I watch. And it's, fun when you watch football with people that aren't as well versed and you say, oh, they're about to do this, or this is about to happen, or they're going to run this play, or they're running to the right, or they're about to pitch it out to the left. And it's kind of like what people are so amazed by Tony Romo as a commentator. It's like that was his life for however many years he played, 15 years or 14 years or whatever. That people think that being an offensive genius is this huge complex strategy and building all these new things and packaging things a certain way. I think that what they do is they actually do less, and they do it really well. They run a couple of run plays. They don't do a whole lot. And then obviously you get real fancy with the route trees and things of that nature. But if you watch them, they run zone, they run GT, and they run power, and that's about it. They run it under different packages. They run it with, with zoom motion, whatever. But they're not doing all kinds of crazy things up front. But what they do really well. So I think that kind of goes back to the old school wishbone style offenses. That they run right and they run left, and they get 6 yards of play and they just do it every play, and you can't stop them. So I think that there's a lot that goes into kind of being a strategist as well as having a pulse of the game is what's actually happening and starting to pick up on the things that they're doing. And they did this on tape, but in reality, now they're out here trying to change it up. So now we should change it up and do something to counter that move. And then, there's all kinds of, your philosophy could be anything. It's, we're going to be balanced. And then Mike Leach says, well, balance isn't running past, balance is covering the field equally. So if you can pass it 90% of the time and still be balanced. And some people would say, oh, that's crazy, you're unbalanced if you pass it 90% of the time. You got to run it at least 40% of the time in today's offense to establish true balance. So who's right? I don't know. I wouldn't say Mike Leach is wrong by any means with the success that he has had offensively. But I think there's no A or B, there's no black or white. What works for you, what works for the personnel that you have, what works against the defenses you play against. What works in the Big 12? Would it work in the SEC? I don't know. Would what works in the SEC work in the Big 12? I don't know. But I know that Big 12 offenses tend to do pretty well in bowl games. Now, defensively, struggle, right? But sometimes those defenses they show a little better in bowl season because they're playing against offenses that are a little bit more simplistic or more pro style. So there's so much to football, and I think that's the beauty of it is, especially when you start getting up into the level of, top tier D1 football. You watch it, like you said, a 2A high school game. It just takes one or two guys you could win state championship with one or two players in small school, high school football.